Can you guys hear me? What's up, everybody? I tried to. So this is the Linda Lane footage from November 13th of 2022. This is the full video. This is 5 hours. Okay. I'm not planning on doing the full 5 hours, but I thought that I would try to download this and then upload it into Canva so that I could edit it and do like overlays to enhance colors or contrast or colorize it. I completely underestimated how long a 5 hour video would take to upload into Canva. So that would have been, that's honestly like, I've been trying to figure that out. What I think I'm going to do instead. Yeah, I'm a little early and I'm not getting started, guys, or I'm not like going to go deep. Honestly, I was planning on watching the Milwaukee Bucks against the Pacers, and for whatever reason, I can't find the game. So I've had to Google it, and I was like, I'm just going to hop on early, see what's up. Most of the time I'll start it at 7 and then I just have like the intro screen, but I figured I'd come on, talk, say what's up to everybody. So this is the Linda Lane video. Wait till GSW. Yeah. What's up, Nico? What's up, Rita Monticello? That's a cool name. What's up, Beck? So I wonder if I can do this. Yes. Oh, of course. It won't let me screen record while I'm live. Nice. I feel honored that I said it right. Yeah, if you guys are seeing my screen getting all wacky, it's because I'm on now. This thumbnail is on Canva. This thumbnail is on YouTube. I'm trying to colorize the Linda Lane footage. I'm trying my best. But the 5 hour footage is a lot to upload. Now, I could have done clips looking back at it. I probably could have just done like the important parts. But I figured I'd rather have the full video colorized so that I could upload that. And if people want to do their own deep dive on it, they don't just have certain parts of it colorized. So, well, JB, that I appreciate that, but next time that means you're gonna have to get two ice creams or 2 blizzards. Thanks, Alexandra. Appreciate it. I'm a big blizzard dude. I get an Oreo cheesecake every time. I don't think I've ever gotten a different blizzard. I also have a couple of like random questions too once we get some people in here. As far as the case, and just like they're just questions that, you know, as like I'm driving or waiting in between meetings and stuff at work, I'm just like, what if this happened? What if that happened? And I feel like I have like 2 or 3 that are pretty good that, again, they're just questions. I don't necessarily have a giant theory to go along with it, but So let me click around quick. Just bear with me, everybody. I want to see if I can do this. Now this is selected. Thank you, Nikita. All right. I wonder if there's a way to download it quicker. I am trying right now. I'm trying to colorize the Linda Lane footage for the people that just joined. Yeah, I just started, guys. Usually I'll let the screen run with like the timer that runs down, but that's been messing with my mic. If you guys have noticed, I've had technical difficulties with no sound for like a week straight when I do that. So I figured I would come on here and just kind of interact with the chat more so before I get in. Well, thank you for joining, Michaela. Yeah, I just got on. Just got on. Not even 8 minutes ago. So this link right here, oops. So this link right here, this is a YouTube link. Then I click over to this one. This is a Canva link. What I can't figure out, and if anybody in the chat knows, I like to consider myself like not a Canva expert, but like I can use it better than most. How can I, without having to download the entire 5 hours or re-upload it and just do the embedded link, which is this, does anybody know how to colorize it without having the file uploaded? Because you know what? Why don't I just ask ChatGPT? No disrespect to the chat, but... Okay, so this says there should be filters somewhere. And for everybody that's just joining, I'm trying to colorize the Linda Lane footage. I feel like I should be able to do it. I feel like there's a way. There's got to be a way. What if I make this smaller and just do this now? So... yeah, that's what I was thinking too, that it doesn't. What if I put it on viewing? Well, that was stupid. Of course, that's not going to let me edit it. Well, I'm trying to, yeah, guys, I've been trying to get this video colorized in a handful of different ways, and I thought that I would be able to. It's not even that the black and white is that hard to see. It's more like the glares, which now that I look at it, I wonder, are all of these license plate blacked out? And that's really what these squares are. You know what I mean? They kind of, let me do it on here so we can zoom in. See, like, don't those look... Doesn't that look almost like those are placed? Especially this one. That's for sure blacked out. Another thing, too, this might make me sound crazy, but whatever. The reason why I wanted to colorize it was because I've seen a couple of videos where it's like people are standing in this video at times. I can't see them. I don't know if it's like my eyes or what. Like, I can't pick up on people in this night vision aspect unless they're like extremely obvious, especially like they're kind of in the shadows or if they're standing against something else. So like, no, what I was going to say, Beck, is that I feel like on like these squares, these triangles, they are all the same shape. It feels like these are placed to cover something. I mean, I guess it could be the taillights. It just seems like that's a huge glare for a taillight. Well, so we found out, too, that it's not a lady walking to the dumpster. It's this dude, which if you guys were on that live was pretty crazy. Actually, let me go to my homepage. Wait, where did it go? Oh, it's right here. So we've looked at this before. So this is the dude that was at the food truck. So the yellow hoodie guy. So yeah, that, I don't know. I mean, we speculated about like, did somebody like, was it kind of like somebody planted something there? To be honest, I feel like people have done weirder stuff than looking at dumpster, walking home. Maybe playing devil's advocate. But I just feel like also you got to be the stupidest person, or well, maybe not the stupidest person, but you got to be pretty stupid to wear a bright yellow hoodie with a hood up and looking like Big Bird on every single camera the night that this all goes down if you're involved. So for people that are just joining, this is the Linda Lane footage. I haven't been going long. It's only about 15 minutes now. Usually I just leave the intro page up with the countdown, but it mutes my mic after however many minutes, and I didn't want to deal with that tonight. So what's up, Stephanie? What questions do you guys got? Because actually, you know what? I'll ask you guys a question. Oh, shoot. Okay, I remembered it. I was going to say I texted it to myself. So this is like it's like a working question. I'm curious just like as far as like what people think. So we've talked about like, what do we think is going to happen in Kohberger's sentencing? I had this like wild moment today where I'm like, he's 100% going to get the pew pew. And again, it was just like something came to me where I'm like, let's say that one of the, like, I would say there's three like mainstream theories outside of what the mainstream has said. I would say like, or I guess I would ask you guys, what do you guys think if it wasn't what the mainstream says? Two of them that come to my mind are like some sort of witness protection, federal involvement operation. Like I would lump in like the rugs into that on a big level. I could see like the ritualistic cult sacrifice. What's another one? Because I feel like if Kohberger really is the fall guy, they're never going to let him off. Or if Kohberger really is just meant there to be like the patsy to take it, they're never going to let him off. And then we're all going to think that he's unalived, but who knows what really happens to him. So, oh God. The daggum truth says there's not a rug angle. That is for just, I guess, keeping blinders on because there's obviously a massive presence of rugs in that area. How much you guys want to bet it's that one lady with a different profile picture now? No, that's okay, daggum truth. Actually, what do you guys think? Should I let her up for about... Should I give her a chance to say how there's not a rug angle? Let's ask the chat. What do you guys think? Because I don't even think it's legit. I was going to say, I know... Look, maybe I'm not 100% right on this one. I feel like I know it's exactly who I think it is. There's been like 6 or 7 profiles. And I don't even want to go into it again because I'm going to get all fired up. Did you guys see my video that I like green screened about how there was that younger girl and she was like, I'm an actor. And I was reached out to by some agency to pretty much like live the life of a social media influencer, had to sign a bunch of NDAs. Okay. Steph, I can't put a D in front of rug. So if like spell out rug with a D. So daggum truth. See, this is the problem with comments like this. The problem with comments like that just drive me up a wall is that it's never anybody that could have any sense of disagreement. I can have a disagreement, but now you're coming after me as if I'm getting... I can't. So, what up, Phoenix? So anyways, let me just finish this thought because now I'm getting distracted. And this is what they want. They had me in the first half. But anyway, she starts talking about how these agencies will pay social media actresses to pretty much live like a fake life. And they can't, like, they got to sign NDAs. Okay. There is 100% narrative scripted, not just social media influencers scripted. There's narrative scripted. You guys see it in like politics. You guys see it in elections, but you want to know where else you see it? You see it when there's trials of public opinion. Okay. Daggum truth. This is my... If you guys have ever been on my lives, this is my first time doing this. Honestly, that felt weird, but it kind of feels good. Maybe I'm just going to start like blocking everybody now. I'm just going to go crazy on the blocks. That's the first block that I've done in about 50 lives. She gone forever. She's on every single one of my posts too. Well, was no longer because she's blocked. And I hate doing that. Yeah. Oh, I know. I think it's I don't know if it's Crime Tiger or whatever her name is, but it's the lady that titled an entire live with 3 of her friends that Birdie Bombs Pisses Me Off was the title of the live. After I had her on my live. Oh, whatever. Yeah. I got done with the live and I went into the kitchen and Miss Birdie's like, you have to see what they're saying about you. And I go, how bad is it? And she goes, they have the live titled Birdie Bombs Pisses Me Off. And we just both started laughing extremely hard. Like, it's just wild. Jen, what the hell? Is Jen back as daggone truth? Jen, what is happening? Are any of my mods in here right now? Okay. See, this is, I'm like, okay, I started a little bit early. I started at 7 instead of wanting to do like the countdown timer. I'm like, I'll come on. I'll talk while I get ready, while everyone joins. And then this is what happens. This is what happens. I end up getting flustered from one person. I had to block my first person. No, I don't know who it is though. I don't know if they're even in here anymore. She keeps saying, what's confusing to me is she goes, I broke the termination letter. And there's also another person, not that it matters, and I'm distracted. This shit doesn't matter right now. Somebody thinks I'm like paid controlled opposition. That's commented on like 9 of my last 13 videos. So that's funny. I wish I was at least paid. Okay. So I got the Linda Lane footage up. So I was going to do the colorization. Here we go. I know. I'm sorry, guys. I got distracted. That was bad. That's very not like me. But before I get started with this, I'm going to let this play on mute. This is like the 4-hour clip. I'm going to, eventually get fast forwarded. I'm going to fast forward to the parts where there's people in it. But I was going off of Phoenix's theory last night of like 2 different timelines, 2 different streams on Twitch. And I came across somebody who messaged me an Instagram profile they sent me with some wild images. Gruesome. That if you guys follow like Criminal Mind Hodl or something on Instagram, one of my followers sent me it. You guys will see their videos on TikTok all the time. It's like the zoomed in video footage with like a weird voice. Oh yeah, Georgia, you sent it. Okay. Yeah, I went and looked at it. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. No, I have not reached out. Yeah. But anyways, I think that here's what I want to ask. What would be the reason if this was a fight club and everything went too far to have the feds involved? And the only logical thing that I can think of is that there was somebody in the fraternity or there was somebody in the house or somebody involved in the fight that in this trafficking pipeline was an undercover asset or an informant that was flipped after minor rug charges. That is the only thing that I can think of that this would happen. The feds were on an airplane. I forget the exact amount of hours. The feds were on an airplane flying there. Like, you can look at their air traffic, and I wish that I freaking screenshotted it. But like, that has to be one of the only things that's going on. And now, guys, I'm just going to say it. What's up, Phoenix?
40 plus investigators were brought in within 6 hours.
Yes, thank you.
I did my homework.
No, yeah, and you can stay if you want. I mean, honestly, you probably keep me from getting distracted.
I'll try to listen.
Yeah, I lost my mind.
I combed through these documents today. I spent about 7 hours in the timeline. I got a new video up. I'm just like, if the American people really believe what they're feeding us, somebody needs to go check up on my research.
Yeah. And here's what I was going to say, Phoenix. Right before you requested to join, I've seen like 4 or 5 videos just today where people are openly putting the survivors' faces on a video and saying, I told you guys. Now, you can't go that far now and say that they had some sort of involvement per se. But would everybody agree that their stories, or at least what was released, or whatever else, I'll even go further. Can we all agree that the people that were defending the roommates of just being drunk kids, now, are they going to at least be able to keep an open mind and a different perspective now seeing the new documents? Does anybody think they're going to be able to do that? Because I don't. Because Phoenix.
Well, some of them are MIA right now.
I know. And it's like, so God forbid, because dude, you used to get canceled if you just said there's no way that they didn't hear screams.
Well, it's like this. Either they're being paid to push a certain narrative.
I think they are.
And they want to refute. I've even seen some make videos not telling the truth about these documents, telling everything but the truth.
Yeah. It's like, and then Phoenix sent me a video that was like on the new, I don't know if it was posted 19 hours ago or if the interview was from 19 hours ago of Steve.
It was new. It was right after, I think it was last night.
Do you know what he equated the fear of Dylan not doing anything to everybody? This man got on there and he said, well, they're just girls. They're kids. They get scared. A perfect example is, my son, he pranked my mom or pranked their mom, and it scared Kaylee so bad that she hid underneath the bed in the middle of the day and called me and had me come home from work. Okay. How are we equating that to a quadruple homicide between like early hours of the morning? Does that make sense? Like, how is that?
I could understand as a woman being scared, but I can't understand as a woman empathy for another human being that's laying on the ground. And per the timeline and per the documents, I lined them up. Okay. So all 3 documents, I have a timeline now, which doesn't add up, which one says contradicts the other one. The timeline is all off. And then you have her Snapchatting a picture allegedly of Xana on the floor. And sending it to someone at that time. So if you read through all these documents with a fine-tooth comb, write down a timeline, write down the times, line up all the text with the timeline that they've given us in all the documents, and then with the statements of her running down the stairs, she says she tries to contact Kaylee, and then she tries to contact Ethan. Ethan is nowhere on that call chat list. The Snapchat of her coincides with going down the stairs. And then it doesn't add up. Not even the time. How can somebody be 2 places at once?
Well, Phoenix, I don't know when you were in here, but if you guys remember what I said about 10 minutes ago about going down rabbit holes last night based on Phoenix's timelines in the Fight Club. The Snapchat photo of Xana on the floor. Go, actually, honestly, it's you're going to see an unalived body on the Instagram. Face gone. It's morbid. I don't even like talking about it. I literally had to look away, but there's Xana ? Written on it. Now it could be fake. I know Instagram allows that stuff, but it's Criminal Mind Hodls. It's got like only 800 followers on Instagram. Go look it up. It's fucking disgusting. And I don't ever cuss on these lives usually. It's terrible. So, and that's my warning. But Phoenix, what I'm saying is, I would be curious if like, because apparently people don't know this. Apparently, dude went to school there and moved out of town because he wanted to start to have the real stuff exposed about it. Now, there's some fringier stuff on it. But again, if he went there and he knew the drama, I mean, he's calling things out that I've never even seen. I've never even thought of it.
Absolutely. And I think we touched a little bit on it last night when I said that this case has a lot of wrecks, rugs, and then some. Because, you know, you're looking at illegal activities. You have to understand what the FBI investigates. I've been saying that all along. They don't just go in and investigate an unaliving. There is so much more, not just what SG said about truckers and this and that. We're talking about organized gambling, allegedly, betting, allegedly, those type of illegal activities. And you alerted us in that you did, and you pulled it up on the screen real quick, but I caught a little bit and I read a little bit. Somebody else inside that house has some connections.
Yeah. When I'm talking about the connections to the feds, connections to
connections to the rugs and the wrecks and the other things.
Yeah. So, oh yeah.
And they happen to be friends.
Yeah. What I'm trying to get at too, I want to go finish that point though about just like the being scared thing, the general, because I seen a couple of comments that are like, you're starting to like dislike them. And it in a way, it's not even like your opinions of the roommates, for me at least, because I'm like, the gag order and people aren't talking. There's one dude talking, right? It's Steve. So it's like your opinion is really your opinion is more so shaped by what you're hearing about it, the interpretations of the documents and stuff, right? But when I heard Kaylee's dad in this interview equate DM feeling scared, like how when Kaylee's brother pulled a prank on her mom and she hid under her bed, I was saying more so like, how are you as a father when your daughter's not alive and this roommate is alive and didn't call 911 and I don't know. I just can't wrap my head around the fact that he justified it by a prank by a little brother when they were kids. When they were actual little kids. That doesn't make sense to me.
Maybe he's trying to justify. I don't know. This is so bizarre, but I do know one thing.
Should I play it? Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, if you can find it. It was on News Nation too. One thing I do know is DM did not sleep that night. It's in the documents that she saw Xana. So we know that the rumor about them being at a hotel is wrong.
Yep.
And I mean, I'm just going through these documents, finding the rumors and the truth. That's all I've been doing. That's not that one. It's a different one. He's got a white shirt on with some dark colored like Bono glasses.
Oh yeah, he was wearing glasses.
Yeah, he looks like Bono glasses with the white shirt. It was just yeah, go ahead.
But hang on, this might just be a short. Damn it. Sorry, guys. Right here. No. It was last night it aired, right?
It was last night.
17 hours ago. Boom. All right. I'm going to let this ad go and then we can do it.
And while we're waiting, just tap your screen, show Birdie some love. We've had some amazing chat. People join us, open minds, free thinkers.
Yeah. Yes, we have. Honestly, it sounds so corny to say, but it's like genuinely, I like interacting with the chat. And I've been trying to do it more. Like actually my little brother watches a lot. And he's like, dude, you gotta pay attention to the chat more. So I've been trying to do that more because sometimes I just like lock into like the point that I'm making. But as I've started to tune into the chat more, the conversation has flowed just so much better. And there's been great talking points as well. So with that being said, guys, this interview aired 17 hours ago. So if you've been on my lives, aired 17 hours ago. So if you've been on my lives, we have gone into the drunk turkey interview with Steve. I'm going to let this play. I kind of want to hear the intro because I only watched the other clips. So in the chat, just give me a couple thumbs up too if the volume's fine when I start this.
Focused on learning every detail and filling in every blank about a gripping true crime case. But sometimes in this process, our hearts just get broken all over again each time we learn something new. And so it is with the university.
I have it cropped. That's on me. That's my bad. Give me a second.
University of Idaho murders. Since the case moved to Boise with a different judge, we've seen a blizzard of unsealed, unredacted court filings and a regular supply of details and disclosures, even some bombshells. And tonight, two absolutely stunning revelations about the surviving housemates texting and talking in the wee hours of November 13th, 2022. Also, a rare peek into some grand jury testimony, something we don't often get to see. We knew that Dylan Mortensen, a surviving roommate, had texted an Uber driver just after 2 o'clock in the morning. That's about 2 hours before the murders happened. But now we know that she and three of her roommates, Bethany, Kaylee,
and Phoenix, what was the quote of the text that this was allegedly said to the Uber? It's like, bro, are you still driving?
Yeah, so at 2:10 they text him and he responds back. So in one document it gives just a little context, in another document it gives more detailed, extensive, and then you got to read through another document to put everything together. But yeah, she wanted to know if he was still driving after he dropped Maddie and Kaylee off, because allegedly she wanted to go get something to eat.
Yeah. And I would say it might not be that unusual to have like students Ubering on a weekend that they're not going out to make some extra cash. So maybe she knew him. I could see that.
Well, he is an adult and works for, long story short, there's a connection there. But yeah, if they'd been drinking, who's going to drive?
Right.
You call an Uber.
Yeah. I don't have any Ubers in my phone that I know of.
Maddie, all of whom had just arrived home from a night out, had actually contemplated going out again. The court document reads, and I quote, at approximately 2 a.m., they met up in Kaylee's bedroom and talked.
Sorry, guys. Someone's at my
for a
house.
while before going to bed. The fifth roommate,
Oh, I hope it's
Xana
not.
Kernodle, who was out with her boyfriend Ethan Chapin, was not home yet. The roommates debated going out to the food truck for late night snack, prompting Dylan to send a text at 2:10 a.m. to an Uber driver she knew to see if he was driving. Ultimately, however, the girls decided to just go to bed. Man, that brings to mind a lot of what ifs, doesn't it? What if they'd gone back out? What if they just decided, let's go, let's do it. It's 2 a.m. Let's go get more food. Might that have changed the course of history on that horrifying night? Of course, there is a good chance if they'd popped back out to that food trunk that they still would have been home before the
I don't think
knife-wielding
so.
intruder allegedly.
Say that again.
I don't think so. I think, and this is just my own alleged humble opinion, I think that they were trying to get them out of the house and down somewhere else, and the plan didn't go as they wanted. That's what I think.
And now when you're talking this theory, just for people in the chat, clarify maybe that this stems from the alleged Fight Club fight night, correct?
Yeah, so Maddie and Kaylee were at the grub truck. We see that. There's timestamps all over the place. There's people watching whatever popped up on everyone's phone. They're huddled around watching them. The timestamps are very important because you see Maddie and Kaylee grab food. Allegedly, it was the wrong food, and they run to their driver. Now, rumor has it, allegedly, this driver is a private driver for some of these girls. And he was not available, and that is why allegedly DM messaged him to see if he could come and get them. He was going the opposite direction.
Now, let me ask the chat. What college girls have a private driver? This is where I swear there has to be an aspect of the national security, because somebody was an informant, somebody was in witness protection, somebody's parents or two people's parents have cooperated with the feds. There has to be an aspect of that because there was a bigger operation going on. But,
well, we knew there was a parallel investigation going on, and the history that I dug up could be two options. It was Ruggs, and it was also the first rule and the second rule that we do not talk about that the media started to cover.
Yeah, I'm telling you that there is a detail that's in our faces that just needs to be looked at in a different way, and it would solidify, I think, the rest of the time. I mean, Phoenix, you've done a great job. People in the chat have done a great job. There's a lot of people that have done a great job at already doing that, but I still, for whatever reason, nothing in my mind makes me feel like certain aspects of this, like for example, the food truck. Does them watching two Twitch streams make sense? Yes. Does it sound like you're hearing them say, "Oh no, Xana"? And then would that make sense if some shit was going down and then Kaylee and Maddie take their food and they run home because they're worried and while they're trying to get to their driver or whatever it is? It would. It would also make sense like if they didn't have enough money and they were just drunk and then they were annoyed or whatever. But it's like there's got to be one thing out there still.
Well, there's another aspect of this that I looked into that is freaking dark, and people don't want to believe that this happens. And unfortunately, there is a big, I don't know if you've ever heard of Midnight Productions in Phoenix. It is a huge underground operation. And just a couple of days ago in Colorado, a news broke that they arrested hundreds of illegals with some rugs and doing other things. And nobody wants to talk about the dark stuff that happens in countries and cities in America that this happens. And, you know, it's taboo. It's bad juju. And you definitely do not want to run across this, but people pay for stuff like this. It's just disgusting.
So, oh, you guys, let's see. Of course, I cropped it just for the YouTube video. So it says it's a legitimate media company or it's an urban legend, but
it's one of those taboo things you don't want to
it's
talk
like the
about.
snuff films. That's what it is.
But it's true.
Of course it's true. It has to be. I mean, guys, you've seen it. For God's sakes, there was an entire island with the most famous people in the world making this shit. And call it blackmail, call it snuff films, call it whatever you want. But like, guys, it happens. People do it. There's a market for it. And you don't talk about it because I feel like the people that do this, if anybody rats, they're unalived or then it's something that they did gets leaked. Like it holds you in. It's handcuffs pretty much.
But there are some people in Idaho in that community that spoke out and were almost unalived and have lawsuits against fraternities and all these other things. All this is nothing new.
I'm just going to look this up too, just out of curiosity, because I don't know for sure. But like, do people who are in... And Phoenix, I'm not trying to hijack it with this. I'm curious. Do people who are in WITSEC have quote unquote private drivers?
Depends on how high profile.
Yeah. Let's just see what it says. All right. So it says just during active relocation court testimony, if they're still high risk. Oh, look at this.
Yes, they
Look
are. I
at
was
that.
going to tell you.
I don't know if everybody reads that. Oh.
And what did I tell you? There were a lot of them around the area at the time.
I don't know if everybody in here also heard this the other day when I looked this up. But like, if you look up in Spanish, the name that the Rartel uses for a debt collector, I'm going to try this. Or something like that.
Someone kept trying to tell me that is not his real name.
Yeah, because look at this. It's called Cobrador. It kind of sounds like Coburger, doesn't it? And it's a collector or an enforcer. So I'm like, when it seems like Steve's talking through the screen to somebody else, is he like just like putting it in his face? We know it was you guys. We know it was you guys. Because that's weird. That's a weird connection. And it's pronounced Cobrador.
Keep going down the rabbit hole. There's so much more. And every day, more and more keeps coming out to be like, what are we really seeing here?
Yeah. And like we had another interview where we looked up like, okay, what does the boogeyman mean in like the rug world? What does glory hound mean? What does alpha mean? Like
everything that SG is saying in videos, who's he really talking to? And you know, what really boggles me is that he knows the words he's using.
Oh yeah. I don't know. There's a lot. Let's go back to the interview. He's for sure talking in code, and I would guess we're about to see more of it.
Brian Koberger broke in and killed Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan. But we will never know. And that brings me to the second.
Wait, what did she just say?
To that food trunk that they still would have been home before the knife-wielding intruder, allegedly Brian Koberger, broke in and killed Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan. But we will never know. And that brings me to the second revelation. We knew about Dylan and Bethany's frantic text messaging between 4:22 a.m. and 4:26 a.m. when Dylan tells Bethany that nobody will answer their phones and that she's afraid because she saw someone in a ski mask. And we knew that Dylan then ran down to Bethany's room on the ground floor of the 3-level house. But the court documents now reveal a brand new fact that we never knew. And it is, honestly, it is something horrifying. Again, quoting Dylan. Dylan again tried calling Kaylee and Xana, but neither responded. Dylan then exited her room and began running towards Bethany's bedroom. On her way, she noticed Xana lying on the floor of her bedroom with her head towards the wall and her feet towards the door. Dylan thought Xana was drunk. Once Dylan arrived downstairs at Bethany.
I don't know about you guys in the chat, but I also don't know if I would expect that somebody's laying on the floor because they're drunk after I just saw a masked man in my house. I would probably be like, oh shit, they need help. And even if it was just, let's say she never saw the masked man, like Phoenix made the point last night, how do you just walk by a roommate laying on the floor? That's not a friend. So if she doesn't even go and stop and she's walking by her, and again, there was a ski mask dude in their house. And yeah, guys, come on. We gotta, let's all put our logical bridge building hats on together. And let's realistically think that this was just a brutal unaliving.
So where was Dylan that she went by Xana's room? What floor did Dylan live on?
Well, she was on the second. But there are reports that she originally lived on the bottom.
Where did Bethany live?
On the bottom.
So their rooms are feet away. And she saw Xana blocking the door because obviously the door was open. And she runs down to Bethany's room, but she sees the guy while running or before. Which one?
I don't know. Okay, so then let's say this. Let's say that she sees Xana as she's about to go down the stairs. Like I'm just picturing like she's running and she's like looking over and she's like, shit.
But she stops to take a picture?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Is the picture at that exact timeline? And before you answer, the other part is to take it a step further. Let's say she did see Xana as she's like going down the stairs and was like terrified running down. Okay. Why wouldn't you and Bethany at that point then probably be like, oh fuck, we got to call for help. We got to do something. And then, or like wait and then go check. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
why don't we call for help?
Or run out the freaking door on the first floor.
Now get this. Xana was said to have the food delivered from DoorDash. So how could Xana be alive according to all these texts, the witness statements, the timeline that were given in all 4 different documents that I put all together in one? Who got the food? The only person that we know of that was hungry was the girls that were upstairs talking about food.
Yeah, exactly. And guys, sometimes I feel like I'm going crazy. Like when I'm not in this chat with you guys and I'm just scrolling, I start thinking like, how do so many people not put this together? And then I start thinking like, is it my brain? Is it my brain that thinks like, this is absolutely crazy? And I just saw Krabby Abby in here. Shout out to him. He puts out great content. He just said, he's like, saw a masked intruder, saw someone on the floor, and then went to bed, or at least said she did. Right, but she never did.
Slept.
So guys,
she's the only one besides Bethany that never slept.
Do you guys realize? Go ahead, Phoenix. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you guys realize how in a court case this big, like saying you texted someone, but you really called them, or saying like you called them, but you really texted them, like just that little misspeak would like have your ass on the hot seat. I feel like there's been like 12 of these.
Now, SG did say that Xana was in the kitchen and there were some missing, I don't know, I can't paraphrase word for word, but he said that someone was in the kitchen. But I heard about the lipstick and the drink, but you know what? There's all these other girls, and there was allegedly some other people that were there earlier that night before they all went out.
Yeah. And also, what was it? See, now I don't know. Phoenix, you would be the one to know this, or anybody in the chat. Was there something done about the food content in Xana's stomach after the TOD, and that it wasn't interrupted was the terminology, or I think is the terminology they would use, meaning that it had been like digested, or like, because I've seen photos of like a Domino's pizza box and then like Venmo transactions of Ethan and Xana paying each other for Domino's at like midnight. So then I always wondered, why would she order food again at 4 if this was all going down too?
That's why I said, who's the only one that stated they were hungry?
Yeah. And sometimes I wonder too, I actually wonder if they've always just said it was Xana that ordered DoorDash just to mess it up, just to throw it off, just to make it an oddity. Because of this timeline. Yeah, just to fit a timeline, just to continue to craft a narrative, you have to switch one name. That's it. All you literally have to do is switch the name for who ordered it.
Absolutely. And did you watch any of the Karen Reed trial today?
I did not, actually.
They're talking the exact same thing, which we're talking right now, is phone, text, timeline, everything stamped. They have to know the timeline is off.
Yeah. And that's what I'm curious about is Steve, Kaylee's father, apparently knows the apps that Brian Koberger has on his phone, how he turned his phone off, what battery percentage it is. How would he know that? How would he know that?
You got me.
Why would he ever be privy to that information unless he was a Fed or briefed daily by Feds? But even in general, he's a victim's parent. That is probably a prosecutor's worst nightmare, looking at this tour that he's doing on news media stations before a Supreme Court capital punishment case.
I think, in my humble opinion, allegedly, in the beginning, he did everything because he wanted to know what was going on. Remember, he said he had to sign some waiver. He signed the waiver. They brought him in. That's my humble opinion.
Yes, honestly. Wow. Back-to-back nights, Phoenix. You get it. That's such a good take. Because in the first ever interview where if you guys have seen my video where I said I feel like both of Kaylee's parents are narrative planting, he says something. He's like, well, I had to sign some like waiver in regards to like some mail. I bet it was a waiver that he would be brought into the investigation. He'd be the mouthpiece.
And he's the only one allowed.
That's a great catch, Phoenix. Good job.
Anthony's room. They locked the door and both made additional unanswered. They locked the door and both made additional unanswered calls to the other roommates. Hours passed, and at 11:50 a.m. the next morning, 6 minutes before the 911 call that you have heard on this program, Dylan called her friends Emily Allant and Hunter Johnson because she was too afraid to go upstairs by herself. And the court filing reads, Emily and Hunter met Dylan and Bethany at the bottom floor of the house. Together, Dylan, Bethany.
So if she's so afraid to go upstairs too, that tells me that she knows that something absolutely catastrophic happened. She doesn't want to see it.
Well, didn't she already run into somebody on the floor?
Well, yeah, but now that's a good question. Is she saying upstairs for Xana, or is she saying upstairs Kaylee and Maddie? Because my brain went to Kaylee and Maddie.
Well, my brain says that she already left her door, saw Xana. Why would she even want to go upstairs if Kaylee and Maddie, they were trying to reach them?
And also, too, one of the things that's always confused me is you guys also, if you guys don't know how to use the Wayback Machine or like archive machines, I would highly encourage you guys to do that. It's not hard to use. You just go onto the Wayback Machine or the Time Machine. There's a couple different websites. Go look at some of the original posts that have been scrubbed. And that front door, that bottom level door, it was open. It was wide open. And so
It was because the dog was let out
The
or got
dog was
out.
out. Yes. So it's just like there's even just this stuff. It makes no sense. But either way, yeah, you're right. Well, she's scared to go upstairs. So that whole time she left her laying there. And so if she really didn't go upstairs since then and ran by her, what would you be so afraid of to go check on a drunk, passed out girl that you live with in college? How is that so bone rattling terrifying?
Well, we don't know if they had Apple Watches on. We don't know if they were monitoring their heart rates or any activity. I can only imagine these young girls were fit. They, worked, they moved. You can tell the TOD, right, by phones, by heartbeats. And on top of that is that we don't know. They could be innocent as hell, right? They could be innocent. And having to go through all this scrutiny under the microscope, the documents don't match, timestamps don't match. And we don't know. They could have been offered immunity or a plea deal. We don't know.
See, and that's a good thing. That's what for the people that have joined the chat, that's what we try to do is like, you can look at it this angle, you can look at it this angle. Nobody needs to have a fixed mind. You can learn new stuff. You can look temporarily through a different lens. Maybe it'll help you with the overall picture of it.
And Hunter started to walk up the stairs to the second floor. When they reached the second floor, Hunter went to the kitchen to grab a kitchen knife. Now, this next part is from Dylan's grand jury testimony. When Hunter came back out, Dylan said, quote, "She saw Xana again for a split second," and this is Dylan talking, "and just started bawling because she thought she had just like, I don't even know. I thought maybe she was still just drunk and all asleep on the floor." Bethany also saw Xana lying on the floor. Hunter told Dylan and Bethany to, quote, "get out." Emily, who had started up the stairs, also turned around after Hunter instructed her not to come any further. They both went outside shortly afterwards, and Hunter exited the house and then told them to call 911. He was pale, white, and mentioned something about someone being unconscious. You can hear a lot of that.
Guys, I'll take like the opposite side of what Phoenix said now. Not take the opposite side, but just give the opposite perspective, where it's like, if it's a bigger operation, try to wrap your head around that something went wrong. Some sort of investigation is at risk because of some sort of confidential informant either being unalived or at risk for like a major rug and, the C word gang operation is at risk. I'm almost at the point where it's like, I'll throw it out there and say, Koberger was one of two students to be recruited from somebody that he worked under at DeSales, who for sure would have had the knowledge of the big time funding Washington State was getting. Is it like, and that was for an internship. It's like, did he get called out there because this investigation was going on? And he was like, he was a nobody. He was new. He fit a good profile. Hey man, you're going to go down. You're going to take the fall for this. We're going to drag this fake name through the mud of this Brian Koberger cat. We're going to give him the unaliving via firing squad, and then he's going to live the rest of his life in WITSEC because he did the feds a huge favor and jumped on this. I don't know. But it's like there's so much crazy shit that you got to like be able to like think through, because I don't know. So this is where Steve comes on now.
You can hear a lot of it on the 911 call. We just envisioned that the banging and the calling out, Xana, Ethan, was at the bedroom door, but it may not have been. It may have been down the hall and around the corner at the stairs. This is where I'm going to stop and bring in Steve Gonzalez. Steve is Kaylee Gonzalez's father. He's been a regular guest on the program. Steve, these were details that I found astounding. They seemed to put into place more details of a very confusing picture of what happened that night. And I often stop and I think about you and the other parents, and whether you get a heads up that this stuff is coming, whether you have someone who sits down with you and goes through it and helps you to sort through it. How do you receive this kind of information?
When it came
We normally get an email beforehand. We work back and forth. I don't think either party really had an understanding of how to really construct something where you can share information but not too much information. But the communication's gotten a lot better. I've really grew to like these guys. I mean, I really care about that those people and all the work that they've done. So I think they've always tried to work towards communication, but I'm sure they're very busy, and it's not easy to always remember to keep us in the loop.
It was a surprise to me, Steve, to hear this detail that Bethany got a glimpse down the hall of what now appears to be Xana's open bedroom door, and Xana lying inside that bedroom door, and ran downstairs to Bethany's room. And then at one point, Bethany also saw that same image. But it's sort of just, it's flummoxing to think that they called friends, they called 911 before anybody sort of went to investigate what was happening in that bedroom with the door now open. We always assumed that it was closed and they couldn't get past it.
Yeah, that's definitely a puzzling part of it. But I always assume, you have somebody who's scared, girl, intoxicated. My own daughter, when my son was playing a prank on her, acting like he was being attacked, him and his mom, Kaylee ran upstairs and hid under the bed and called me at work. So when people are scared, they're
I get the point of it being made in general about people getting scared. But again, think of what happened in that house. She ran downstairs, said she didn't leave or get out of the danger. I don't know.
Remember, what we're hearing from Steve is hearsay until a witness can testify. See, hearsay is just exactly what it sounds like. You hear what they said, but it doesn't mean that is the truth. So when they get up in the stand and testify under perjury, then the truth will come out eventually.
It just seems like such.
And Ashley Banfield didn't even get the names right. I know they have a lot to remember and things like that, but it was Dylan that did all that, not Bethany.
Yeah, that's true. Which is surprising because I feel like she has probably a teleprompter right there.
They're young. They don't think the same way as a grown adult does. And I think they were just thinking that something bad had happened, but they didn't want to believe it. They weren't really prepared to mentally accept what was happening. And I totally understand that, because it's not something that we're used to in Idaho. It's not something
That's also not true, because there's a shitload of unalivings and random crimes, especially having to do with hazing in the Greek life and rugs. Over the years, how many was it, Phoenix, that you were able to find? It was like 8 or 9.
I found 7 so far.
Yeah. Since when? 2019?
2019.
7 unaliving since 2019, and this guy's like, that's not usual for Idaho. Yes, it is. It's a giant trafficking and rug running pipeline.
But we're not talking about the ones that survived.
Exactly.
There's plenty more.
is calm. It's not even. It's just unheard of. So I chalk it up to that, and I know that there's a lot of forensic, and there's a lot. These girls had their phones on. I already said way back in the day that you could tell when they went up the stairs and downstairs. This is all laid out. Every step has been retraced. So it didn't make a difference in the bigger picture. And I've always said that there could be blessings for late calls.
Okay. See you, Phoenix. Thank you so much.
As well, too.
Yeah. It's also just so jarring to get the detail that the girls were all together up in your daughter's room, chatting about, let's all go out again, 2:00 in the morning, let's go back to the food truck. And I'm not sure if you heard how I laid it out at the top of the show, but all I can think of is the what ifs if they had actually decided to go. And I'm wondering how you're processing that information.
I knew a little bit of the details about that. I don't even talk about some of it just because I don't want to hurt some of the people, that are involved in this. If, certain people would have got picked up phones, all those type of things, those are what ifs. But I think what it really goes to your audience is these girls were best friends. And even the last moments of my daughter and Maddie's, they were surrounded with friends and they were in their beds. So just keep that in mind, because there's going to be probably some people are going to try to drag these surviving people through the mud.
I'm so glad that KRS-One just said that. They left the food truck almost at 2:00. So and had to take a car home. Why would you go back? And also, I don't know what time the food truck's open till, but I would guess it's probably not open 24 hours. So how does that timeline even make sense? Food truck closes at 2. They left call it 10 minutes before 2, whatever you want to say. By the time they got home, they wouldn't eat. Why would?
And up to their very last moments, they were hanging out with these, the people who passed away, planning on doing something fun. And my daughter came down there to hang out with one of those girls. And that's the reality of it. That's the truth of it, not some of the speculation that you're going to eventually hear about.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you guys think that means? Because I haven't watched this full interview. I only saw the part about him saying that's scared. Did you guys hear that? Listen to what he says right at the end.
Something fun. And my daughter came down there to hang out with one of those girls. And that's the reality of it. That's the truth of it, not some of the speculation that you're going to eventually hear about.
See, to me, this dude comes on and does interviews right before something huge drops historically, while this case has been going on. The other thing too, he hasn't even been accurate as far as court documents timelines. Phoenix and I broke that down the other night. So I can speculate here. There's going to be a lot of mental gymnastics that are about to have to be done for these roommates when something is about to come out in the next court drop. It would be my opinion. That's 100% what he's doing. He's planting the narrative. Because if you notice too, right before he said that, he goes, "That's the truth," not some of the speculation you're about to hear. Now, let's see, because everything that he said, did it line up with the timeline in the court documents that everybody's going off? No, but he says that's the truth, not what you're about to see. So don't believe what you guys see. Don't believe what you read. Don't do your own research. That's the truth. Not a Supreme Court capital punishment case where they're about to do a firing squad for the first time in 30 years instead of lethal injection that was done and swapped right during this man's pretrial and then expected to go live when he's expected to get sentenced. Okay.
Try to drag these surviving people through the mud, and up to their very last moments, they were hanging out with these, the people who passed away, planning on doing something fun. And my daughter came down there to hang out with one of those girls, and that's the reality of it. That's the truth of it, not some of the speculation that you're going to eventually hear about.
Anybody in the chat have a guess? And as I'm reading some of them, like Steve got on and said, there's some conspiracy about Washington State and Idaho State and Idaho, and the feds are all in on it. And I don't know if he was talking about the funding that I had brought up. I'm not saying that it was because he saw my video per se, but he called funding that you can look up on the DOJ's website from the NIJ down to the penny. and the year and the name of the study, he called that a conspiracy theory due to Hollywood making people go crazy. What? You've seen people start to talk about it in comments of videos? What do you mean, Beck? So it's just like, if you haven't watched that Drunk Turkey interview, I've seen people talking about like how even London was saying that interview was a train wreck for him. If that says anything. Oops.
It's the truth of it, not some of the speculation that you're going to eventually hear about.
Yeah, and shame on those who have cast aspersions on these two surviving roommates who have been...
Dude, they're totally shaming it because there's going to be some shit that comes out. I'm calling it right now. That's what's about to happen.
To hell and back. They're still there. They're not back. And how anyone could set upon them with ridiculous conspiracy theories is beyond the pale. There was something...
Every time I hear that on the media, I think of George Bush at Ground Zero saying, and don't let this be some crazy conspiracy. Anytime that you guys hear that, that's when like your ears should perk up and you should start being like, what did we miss? What did we miss? Shame on all of us. Okay, lady. No, shame on you. Shame on you for saying that.
Thing that you mentioned, I think a couple of days ago in an interview that sort of stood out to me. And that was that I think you had a chance to speak with the coroner and got a detail about one of the injuries that your daughter suffered at the hands of this killer. I think it was a punch to the face. Can you tell me what it is that you learned?
I don't go into all the details on it because I want the court to bring it out. I want them to do it. But yes, I feel 2.5 years. The defense has a strategy to have everybody forget. And I'm here to make sure they don't forget. So when I do have to let stuff out, it's because I don't want people to forget that we have a monster. And yes, he one of the girls was a little more intoxicated. He was able to go after that. Maddie May first. And my daughter woke up and he struck her multiple times and broke her nose. And yeah, and there's a little bit more details to that, but I leave that to them in case that's something pertinent for them to know and to let them release it. But I'm not going to let anyone forget about what this monster did. And I'll leave it at that.
But they were able to give you that detail that that the killer killed Maddie first and then went after Kaylee second?
Correct.
Monday.com is the...
Guys, why? Like, what I'm trying to understand too is like the amount of wounds that they apparently had in that short of a window. How is there like, I don't want to say how is there time for a punch, but you have a giant K-bar. What do you like? Are you ambidextrous? Look, and also, guys, for everybody that's in here, I'm not ridiculing anybody. There's been a suspect that's been in jail for a very long time. This case, like it or not, it's not just, it doesn't stop with Brian Koberger. The methods that they've been using for this case will be a precedent that's set. And so people are like, why do you guys care? Why do you guys care? It's like, no, it doesn't matter if it's Brian Koberger or not. It matters that it's the right person. And it matters that they're not using an emotional tragedy for overreach on our rights. For example, the genealogy databases that I've talked about at lengths, and I won't bore people again with that, but that should not be a legal loophole for the feds to get your DNA because you checked a terms and condition box, or your cousin wanted to know if he was part Viking 12 years ago, that they can get your DNA because they can link it to a family tree. You shouldn't have to prove another reasonable suspect in a pretrial. That's not the defense's job. Never in 200 years in an American court has that ever happened. When this is a death penalty case at the Supreme Court level, everything needs to be on the up and up. That's like the standard that we should be holding everybody accountable to. There should be clear answers when technology and overreaches like that are used at that high of a level of court.
I think there's a lot of forensics that we're going to learn in this trial. I hope you're going to be okay, you and Christy and the family, when it comes time for those testimony days. The last thing I wanted to ask you about, Steve, is that you've learned that Bryan Kohberger called out from work the day after these murders. What do you know about that, and how did you hear this?
There's a thing called a Bryan tally I've heard about. I've spoken because I was vocal, because I came out. Some people reached out to me. This individual was an employee of WSU. And from there, I learned of some details. So, yeah, there was an investigation, an HR type investigation. And I don't know all the details about it, but I do know these girls felt very creeped out. They talked to people in power, and they said, document it, and they started documenting it. And that's how we know that one of the days, the day after he took that photo where he's acting like he's, super confident and got away with murder. He doesn't look sick to me at all. You guys can look at, your audience can go look at it themselves. And I heard that's the only time he ever called in sick as well.
That's unbelievable detail. Steve, I always am very appreciative that you take the time to speak with us. I'm glad you keep your daughter's memory alive and the story alive as well. It's important that nobody forget what happened. Thank you again for this.
Yeah.
Steve Gonsalves.
So I want to point this out because Phoenix pointed this out last night. And every single photo that they show of Bryan makes him look like strung out, crazy, weird. But then you go and you look at some of these. And of course, like, how weird is it? Oops, I don't know where Family Wedding High School came in. You look at some of these. Like, does this even look like the same person? I'm not saying that it's not the same person. But it's like, look at this. That dude looks like he's aged. Like, I mean, I get he's in jail, but it's like his whole, I mean, I don't know. It just seems like they choose like crazy pictures, but like, when have you ever seen this version of it? It's like they do this instead, or this. And I'm not saying that the news hasn't done that where they, depending on the narrative, they don't pick the most flattering photo of whatever, right? But I digress. It's obviously, I am never going to say that I hope Bryan Kohberger gets away with it. I think whoever did this should absolutely rot in prison for the rest of their life. But part of me sometimes wonders if this is just a cover for a giant federal investigation that's going on. Do you know that there was now I will say this. Like, has anybody checked like the highway cameras or the street cameras of like a coroner's van going to the morgue or going to the place where they do autopsies, that the route they would have gone from King Road? Does anybody see a van that they could even see leaving that direction? Stuff that I've seen says no. I mean, is there any pictures of the bodies? Is there any leaks? Like, how is a case this big with zero leaks unless it's coming from the victim's father? Does that look like a victim's father who's about to have a Supreme Court case with, and I guess I should say more so about like, he went on this YouTube channel called Drunk Turkey and now they apparently know each other, but it's like some of the stuff is just like, I don't understand. He said from day one he was involved in the investigation. Like, and I get that, but like, no grieving, no shock, no what the hell just happened, no like behind the scenes trying to talk to the other families. And he's always said, well, what's there to really talk about? Hell no. I don't think that would be the case. You'd be talking to all of the families, figuring out what the hell happened. How do they not talk to each other? I just don't understand it. And if you haven't seen this video, I'm going to do this again because this should be like a potential, what you would call like a red pill. Looking back at it, this is now 2 years ago. This is 2 years ago. This is 26 days before Brian Koberger got arrested. And they're calling out the exact plan of what's about to happen. Is that a little strange to anybody else?
Working is that you are. I can't just.
Yeah. What are you doing now on set? The parents of Kaylee Gonzalez, Christy and Steve Gonzalez.
And watch how it seems like they're talking through the screen to somebody.
You guys have been so transparent and strong for the public. Christy, you called the person that did this the boogeyman.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that?
You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually just going to go to the part where he lays out exactly what I'll lay out the part of the exact narrative plan that I'm talking about.
Them because I need to be careful because I can't speak on somebody who don't want to say anything and they don't have the guts to come up and be alpha. We want to put rewards out there like don't.
Last time y'all heard from the police?
Thursday
We looked at our phone records.
FBI, everybody that's here. We just have no information as family, and it gets tough day after day after day. I mean, every day you just wake up and think today's the day. We're going to hear something, and you see these, there's a break in the case, and it'll just be something stupid.
The sixth person on the lease that was never there. Stop playing games. This is serious. These are people's lives, and this is the future of this community. There's going to be 10,000, 15,000 kids that come into this community next year, or they don't. So be serious.
I had the opportunity to speak to some of my sources, and I've been told that there were differences in the way that the victims were killed. Some were more.
And I'll always pause it there and just say, what a wild question. In front of a police station, just like 2 weeks, 3 weeks after, 3 weeks after they're like, wow. To me, that's just like, that's crazy.
More severe than the other. And this week we heard the target attack walk back and then reverse it back to it being a target attack.
Like, sorry, straight up just, now he's going into detail. He's like, how were they killed? And like, was it targeted towards them? Was it not? Like, what are we doing here? This is like a month, not even a month after these kids were just like, what? I get it's the news, but like, and look at how composed and like, again, call it grieving different ways. I'm saying when you hear their answers now and why he would ask the question that way, it just seems like scripting the narrative, planting a narrative, getting the initial narrative out there.
What can you tell us about the targeted attack?
They have told us that it was targeted, but they told us they can't tell who. We asked specifically, and they said, we'll try to get that information to you. And they got back to us a day or so later, and they said, we're sorry, we can't give you that information. But then a day later, we saw in the news that it was not targeted, or they think the whole house was targeted. But
I'll cut to the chase.
Yeah.
Their means of death don't match.
Maddie's
They don't.
and Kaylee's cause of death, it does not match based on the autopsy report.
They don't match.
Would indicate that one of them.
He doesn't have to
may
go
have
up
been
the
target.
steps. Let's stop playing games, guys. I need somebody to step up and.
Sorry, I keep pausing it. I just want you guys to look through this. Look through this lens. Just humor me for this. Tell me that this does not feel like Steve is talking directly to a single person. Listen to how he says he needs to be off the street. We need to get this guy off the street. And listen to how he's framing just the tone, the body language. He's talking to somebody.
They don't.
And Kaylee's cause of death, it does not match based on the autopsy report.
They don't match.
Would indicate that one of them.
He doesn't have to
may
go
have
up
been
the
target.
steps. Let's stop playing games, guys. I need somebody to step up.
He doesn't have to go up the steps. What a wildly specific thing to blurt out. Oh, shit. I got a warning because of the Fox News thing. Damn it. Are you kidding me? Yo, can you guys like spam the chat with like I love TikTok shop or just tap the stream a bunch? What a joke. Sorry, TikTok. Unbelievable. This is such an incredible app outside of the weirdest algorithm BS. Oh God, that makes me like start to sweat. Because it's like, because if that happens then too, like as I'm recording it so that I can upload it, it doesn't let me do it, which is just, how could I do this? I'm going to try to delete the window and then reopen it. Bear with me, everybody. Oh, play the audio only. Can you guys hear this if I play this? Let me know in the chat.
Up and be an alpha. Be somebody to be a leader. Don't make me do it. I don't want to do it.
Can you guys hear that? Oh, nice. Okay, sweet. Sweet. Whoa, yes. Good. Hell yeah. All right. So it might actually be better to just hear the audio. So I'm going to go back about 10 seconds and I'm going to play that and I won't stop it. Just listen to the audio on it.
Steps. Let's stop playing games, guys. I need somebody to step up and... They don't.
And Kaylee's cause of death, it does not match based on the autopsy report.
They don't match.
Would indicate that one of them.
He doesn't have to
may
go
have
up
been
the
target.
steps. Let's stop playing games, guys. I need somebody to step up and be an alpha. Be somebody to be a leader. Don't make me do it. I don't want to do it. He doesn't have to go up the steps. Their points of damage don't match. I'm just gonna say it. It wasn't leaked to me. I earned that. I paid for that funeral. I paid for that. It's my right. You ain't taking that from me.
Calm down.
If you don't want to say nothing, that's your bet. But don't say I'm leaking anything. I paid that bill. Sent my daughter to college to get an education. She came back in the box, and I can speak on that.
I was also told
from
sources
Jesus.
that are closer to an investigation because there was a lot of roommates in there. And this was horrific for those roommates that were there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
The preservation of this crime scene. Witnesses tell me.
You know what? I don't know how we haven't said this in the chat. I just paused it. Someone just listed out. It was Sarah. She goes alpha, beta, gamma, delta, zeta, theta. Frat thing? Maybe.
That it may have well been preserved because the phone was passed around between one of the fraternity members and the girls. One of them unfortunately witnessed the death, the body there. Can you confirm that?
Okay. Do you guys realize what I'm trying to say in this interview? That didn't come out until the most recent court documents, is what I'm getting at. They want to play it off that it was a misspeak. He just said that they witnessed it, and now we know. But this is 3 weeks after. It's trippy when you guys listen closely like this.
Between one of the fraternity members and the girls, one of them unfortunately witnessed the death, the body there. Can you confirm that?
We cannot actually. We know nothing about that whole phone call. We've asked, and it's, I mean, I know that a lot of people want to know, but that's just not our agenda. We just are like, somebody called 911, somebody was reported unconscious. We don't really know. I mean, we've heard so many different things, and nothing has been clarified or been told to us at all. And I mean, I don't know if I personally have asked anything about that. I don't know if you have asked that, but we know that this is getting 3 weeks in, and it's starting to get. We don't want it to go cold. We're reaching.
I'm not even joking you. I feel like I would be like, no, nobody is leaving this room until every single person in this room amongst the other family members feels like they all have the answers that they probably need for their own closure, as far as they feel like they know what happened. You're going to say you don't know. How do you not know? How have the parents not talked to a survivor at this point? Guys, you remember what has happened. It's like people want to just like desensitize to the fact that there was 4 people that were allegedly unalived by a K-bar in a Jason Bourne-esque timeline. No signs of entry, no signs of exit, no blood outside the house. A roommate comes face to face with them, sees somebody that's laying down, doesn't call 911. And now I just can't.
Reaching out. I reached out to friends down in California today that have connections that we're hoping to raise some money to get a reward, to get a private investigator.
Third party.
Why go the private route? Do y'all worry that at the end of this week that this case may be
100%.
cold?
We're scared.
When you
We're
tell me you
scared.
don't want a photo up there with the reward offering information, that kind of sounds like you're trying to like suppress the story. I mean, why do you not need help? But hey, I could be wrong, and you officers, I apologize if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I want to.
absolutely.
Please forgive me. Please forgive me.
Now, the part that I wanted everybody that I originally played this video for is coming up, but I'm curious. Not seeing the video, is that helping or is that hurting as far as the perspective goes? Let me know, because sometimes, like, I've never watched it without the video. I can obviously see it on my end. Interesting. Okay. Helping me. Okay.
But if you don't have the information, people do know. If they don't, then the community. This is a community that is IT based. These guys live a digital footprint like we've never. All of us older people, we don't know how much that digital footprint could be helpful. So that's what we ask for. I hope like a DNA, a family lineage, if they could come out here and just start taking. This town is not that big. We could figure out this, and it might not be him. It might be a family member. We have family all going to the school together. You know, there's cousins, there's aunts, there's uncles. We could find this guy just with volunteers.
Lineage companies were,
Put Idaho on the map.
All right. What the actual hell? Guys, 3 weeks after these unalivings and 26 days before Brian Kohberger's ever arrested, there's no way in hell they already knew about Brian Kohberger through this lineage thing. And there's no way that they would let that dude be out and about and crossing state lines if they did for a quadruple homicide. This is weird. That screams Fed. Fed front, Fed briefing, something. It screams not what we're being told. I'm going to play that one more time. We have the IT-based, the digital footprint claiming that us older people don't know. He's in crypto. He's in IT. What do you mean? They say DNA might not even be him. Might be a family member. Well, they were able to track Kohberger via DNA, and he never submitted his as a federal legal loophole, which will, after this case, be codified and made law because it's done at a Supreme Court level at a death penalty case. What I'm trying to say is, come on. That's just 3 weeks after these are grieving parents, and this guy in the news is saying, I heard they were killed differently and your daughter got the most wounds. Are you shitting me?
Making this town be held. Never. All of us older people, we don't know. story. I mean, why do you not need help? But hey, I could be wrong. And you officers, I apologize if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I want to,
absolutely.
please forgive me. Please forgive me. But if you don't have the information, people do know. If they don't, then, you know,
Give us
the
something.
community, this is a community that is IT based. These guys live a digital footprint like we've never. All of us older people, we don't know how much that digital footprint could be helpful. So that's what we ask for. I hope like a DNA, family lineage, if they could come out here and just start taking, this town is not that big. We could figure out this, and it might not be him. It might be a family member. We have family
Unbelievable.
all going to the school together. You know, there's cousins, there's aunts, there's uncles. We could
Yeah.
find this guy
Those,
just with volunteers.
Lineage companies were, yeah.
Put Idaho on the map.
Christy, Steve,
And also, what does put Idaho on the map mean? I believe that the reason why his wife came in and clearly said lineage companies is because he said linergy and he didn't get his line right, is what it sounds like to me. Again, 26 days before Brian Koberger's arrested, they lay out the exact freaking plan of how they're going to arrest him. And I'm telling you, do you guys really think that if they have a plan for how they're going to catch this person, I don't get it. I don't get how it's possible unless it's scripted. Because you can say, oh, maybe the feds told them. Well, really? How would they even know that they would need to use that route? How, if they already know it's Koberger, why would they have to use that route? One of the other questions too that I have is, has anybody heard now okay, so one of the things that I try to do is I let everybody know when I'm about to speculate, because I don't want to be out there like, oh, Birdie said this shit. No, this is speculation, but I've seen this on the internet, right? That there was rumors that the original 911 calls said that the dude that said that there was an unconscious person originally also said that there was a smell of bleach and thought that they passed out. Has anybody heard that? I've seen that. I've been thinking about it. It's my first time saying that on live. I don't know if anybody's heard that. Okay. I saw that on a random account like 2 days ago. Okay. I'll let this go. This got 30 more seconds.
we're going to stay on this.
Yes, and Nico, yes, it was right at the beginning. It was scrubbed. I might be able to. Let me pull this up. I think it might be in my history. Because I went down a rabbit hole that the timeline was later. Because I started thinking that everything's been so redacted in this case. Part of me started thinking, like, did everything really go down in that 8-hour like blackout before the 911 call? Is kind of what I was wondering. But I'm looking, and I'm not ignoring you guys. I'm looking through this history to see if I can find that link. Because I was on the Wayback Machine. So, like, all right, these are 3 Reddit and 4chan leaks that were scrubbed. These are all within 48 hours of this going down. Quote unquote, the Sigma Chi guys were pissed at Ethan for something. Cops know they'll bury it. That was one. Another posted, and this is archived on True Crime, either on 4chan or Reddit. It doesn't specify. It says, Xana wasn't the target. Kaylee was. She had dirt on someone and was talking about it at the bar. End quote. And then there was And then there was a deleted TikTok video that showed a girl who was at the corner club saying
next week.
the Sigma house is sketchy AF. They're covering their own ass. What's up, Phoenix? You there?
I'm so sorry.
Oh, no. Did you mean to join?
Yeah, I was listening in kind of in the background, and you had some valid points, but I missed the last one that you said. You were on a tangent.
About was it about, I guess, like how long ago was that? Because I feel like I went on 3.
Well, it was it was the one before last. I heard the end of it and I thought, "Oh my God, what is he talking about?" And then I turned the volume up.
Oh. Was it
The
about
bleach.
bleach? Yeah.
Yes, it was a bleach. What was your theory on that?
Well, so I went down a rabbit hole as if the unalivings actually happened in the blacked out 8-hour period. Just thinking through, like, everything that's important is redacted. Like, there's a whole 8-hour time frame that we just always associate with, like, oh, that's just the delay. But that's a lot of time.
No, yeah, and there's no way he did this and clean up in under 30 minutes.
Right. So then I started looking back and I'm trying to find it. I just found 3 of the bullet points that I was looking at for, like, I asked ChatGPT to go through this link, and the link that I posted was the Wayback Machine on random Reddit threads. And I said, pull out anything that was posted within 48 hours of 11/13/22. And there was, I swear there was one that somebody had said something about early reports state that the dude that ended up talking about an unconscious person who was at the house that morning said he thought that they passed out because of the smell of bleach that he smelled when he walked in.
Ah, okay.
Which would explain why the door was open to air it out, is where my mind went.
Yeah, but why? Okay, so here was my theory on this. When this all went down, I felt like Bethany and Dylan left. They left after this happened. Because here's one thing a lot of people don't realize. And the only thing I know that from my experience when I worked in a hospital, when I would go down to the morgue to deliver papers or whatever, I didn't work in there, you could smell blood. You could smell the iron in the amount of blood. And if that was true, when they said that, the house was dripping and all this other stuff, it would be a horrible, horrible mess. But you would smell the iron, just a strong, overpowerful smell. But in a crime scene, they really go through with a fine-tooth comb, and you would be able to see this with luminol, right? You'd be able to tell. So Steve has said that they drowned in their own whatever, right? And the early stories, I always go back to the beginning like you did your search. Someone said that one of them, was choked, strangled. I don't know if I can say that word. But when I saw that, I was like, how in the world would somebody know that? How would they know? And then it came out, Steve said that she was assaulted way back when, in the beginning. Now he's finally telling us that she was punched. But then someone says she was punched so bad they couldn't even recognize her because of her face.
Here's another early one that I found today that lines up with just, guys, I feel like they call the show The First 48 for a reason, not just because they turn cold, but a lot of, like, the truth is there and it's fresh in everyone's mind. But there was a Yik Yak, which that app, if you were in college at that time, like, I feel like it's like a random app. Like, I graduated in 2016 and it was around. So I don't know if it got more popular or not. But someone with a Yik Yak claimed to see a post, or someone on Yik Yak claimed to have seen a Snapchat from her that said, quote unquote, something weird happened last night. I don't know what to do. But the post was deleted before 10 a.m. on November 13th. So, and Sarah, hell no. Hell no.
Yeah, I think, obviously, when I said this the other night, I think those girls were orchard. And this was a longer process than even shared. And people knew it was happening on the campus before 911 was even called.
There's even neighbors, guys. There's neighbors for like in that area that have said they also heard a man screaming back between 3 and 4 a.m. So these are all getting nuked online within what seems to be the range of, it's either like under 12 hours or at about a 72-hour mark from what I've seen on, because it has like when it was scrubbed. So, and Phoenix, I don't know if you were in here, you might have just hopped off, but remember how Steve had said in that most recent interview that, oh yeah, they were wondering, they were going to go back to the food truck. Well, they got home at 1:56 via a car. The food truck closes at 2. They would never consider going back, would they?
It closed at 2:30, but they usually close about 10 minutes before, but they do close at 2:30. I even checked the timeline of the food trucks at that time for winter, and they did close at 2:30.
And it's a 7-minute drive, the chat said.
Right. It's like
Drive, the chat said.
Right. It's like driving down 1 block and 2 blocks down. It's not that far at all. And neither is the Corner Club, because the Corner Club, and then they park right down the road from the Corner Club, right? So it's not, I mean, if you left at 2:10, that means you would have 7 minutes to get there. That's 2:17, even if they went to the food truck. And then the average wait time around there looked like about 10 minutes. So that's 2:27. They could have gotten food depending on who was hungry.
Right. And you've said that. It's like, who was talking about being hungry? Who was the one that wanted to go get food?
Well, according to DM, they wanted to get, her and Bethany wanted to get food because Anna and Maddie had just picked up their food.
Or Kaylee and Maddie, you mean? But
yeah, Kaylee and Maddie, sorry.
But what I would say is like, and that's where I'm like, does that mean like DM's like, if they want to go, like, no, don't go. Cause she like knows that, like, what if they leave and then this is all about to go down? That's like a far end speculation. I don't know. So, I found it. I found it.
Yeah.
This dude that posted this, he went to U of I. He was a student there. This was posted on November 15th. Quote unquote, smells like bleach from down the street from the King Roadhouse. And then followed up with a second comment. I live across the field. Smelled like cleaning chemicals that night, Sunday night.
And didn't I say that whole time might have been the cleanup?
Yeah.
They didn't want the word to get out. That 911 call sounded very frazzled. And I'm not saying that these girls, the survivors, were part of this. They might have been caught up in something really just over the top and had no idea. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt because they survived this ordeal.
There was also a local reporter on Facebook that said, quote unquote, the police seem surprised there's no blood outside considering how much was inside.
The cleanup took place. And remember, I told you I found the blotter for the 3:01 a.m. 911 call. That was called in by a fraternity, and they said it had nothing to do with this. But in my humble opinion, when those cops were all swarming around there, this had already taken place, and they were looking for the culprits, because if there was a fight club going on around in that area, they all dispersed and ran away very fast not to get caught.
Yes. And Phoenix, I just came across a new one that I did not see because I was looking back through my history. I re-clicked on the link. This is another one. This is from a early deleted TikTok. And it says my roommate's phone and mine dropped service for about 30 minutes around 3 a.m. on our walk home that night. We thought it was Wi-Fi related because we weren't necessarily at our house, or like we thought initially it was like just bad service. Our LTE wouldn't even connect, which that means that it's completely shut down. The network shut down. And you've talked about that, Phoenix.
Yeah. So according to my research, there was 3 individuals that talked about service was lost. They took pictures of their TV. They were watching TV. The network dropped. They didn't know what was going on. And my first instinct was the feds are around and they have a device that jammed everything, or they had a swather, or possibly threw out a net so they could capture everybody in the area because they had hundreds of people that they interviewed.
And you know who wouldn't have access to that? Your average psycho. That is exactly right, Phoenix. But the federal contractors would. So that's another massive point. There's not just reports about it's not that the internet went out, everybody. The entire network. So it doesn't matter if you don't have Wi-Fi or your internet's off. I'm talking data. And then you go into why does AT&T and Verizon and all these giant cell companies get all these contracts with the government? And it's so that the feds can do shit like this on their networks or mirror their networks via Stingray, Dirtbox. Yeah.
Yeah, Dirtbox, Stingray. And that is how they can say that his phone was turned off. Everybody's was turned off.
Exactly. He turned his phone off. He hard turned it off. That's another thing that SG said he knew. He goes, we know exactly how he turned his phone off. And I'm like, I could tell you how every single person with an iPhone turns their phone off. They hold the power button with the up arrow or the down arrow and it goes off. What do you mean he hard turned it off? Like all the way off? And then how do you know he has 97% battery percentage? How do you know that he doesn't have a stargazing app on his phone?
The powers that be did not want this to get out until they had things under control. And it was already rumored, pictures, all this stuff. And the people who did it didn't even know what fully had happened. I believe the girls did not fully know what happened until after the fact. Then it all made sense.
There was students that were saying too, like, I'll sum it up. There's like 4 here, but it's like pretty much it's either total BS or like she was trained or told not to react, not by the intruder, but by police that were on scene earlier that we would know.
Yeah, W.S. Kim was right all along. Everybody called her wild and conspiracy and crazy. But parents knew before. Parents knew. Students knew. That traveled so fast around campus. It's a small town, a small community. If you go back and look at the other unalivings of people in the frat, then you start seeing a bigger picture. Something was going on. They were investigating prior. We talked about this with the studying, the money, the funding, all this stuff. And remember, these crimes took place off campus, not on campus.
Yes. And one of the things that's like, it's talked about as far as mind boggling, but a huge aspect now after the crimes too is the house being demolished. I've said this since the day they tore it down. I would bet a shitload of money that jury would have been bussed out to go see the crime scene, but they're using a dollhouse instead. And again, at the level of this, that to me is crazy. And that apparently it was given and sold to the university, and then the university tore it down. And I don't know, Phoenix, from your experience, like either in like, I guess the military or in just general life experience. I think you said at one point there was a police officer or law enforcement in your life, but it's like, what would ever be the reason to do that? To not have a third-party private forensics team? Or
well, in a court case, which I'm very familiar, when they go to trial, you have to have an expert witness. If you don't have any expert witness, your case falls apart. That's the first thing here. The second thing is if they were worried about the biohazards, you know, they had a contractor come and clean up, and then they were going to tear it down. And said, no, I want to walk through it first. I want to see firsthand. And it is to buy time. And I honestly believe, in my humble opinion, allegedly to clean up, because the the whole college was under a microscope and under the gun with all the frat stuff happening. They didn't need another unaliving to take place. They needed to have a workaround and buy some time, focus on catching an unaliver, because students were not coming back. Up to 40% of the students were not going to come back. That's millions of dollars. Think about it. Some of these kids were in their first year, second year, and now they're not coming back. That times that by 40%, they're going to lose money. And the parents could have done something. We don't know if there's any lawsuits being filed from some of these parents against the frat or the college, for that matter. We don't know, but they could not afford a negative return on their investment with the kids. College is a business, just like court systems. They are a business in our country. They could not lose any more than they've already lost. They had to take that house down for people to feel safe to come back.
And we talked about this, but now with the whole Steve saying that Hollywood has made people crazy when they think of Idaho and Washington and the feds being in on it. Well, it's like, I've said it, Washington State gets their predictive criminal behavior funding. Now, after the fact, Idaho gets the STOP Act for preventing violent acts of crime from happening on campus funding. That bridges the gap you just talked about with tuition rates dropping. So the feds then come in and they build the bridge for the funding. Again, it's just odd timing, or I guess it makes sense. But let me just finish this point quick, because it's like the house was demolished on December 28th of 2023. Okay. Brian Kohberger hadn't even had a trial date set. So let that sink in. The most high profile unaliving scene in recent American history, a place that should be preserved, studied, reviewed, probably a couple of times. It was turned to dust. And what was all buried in that? You have wall blood spatter patterns, footprint evidence, unexplored access points, crawl spaces, maybe side structures or tunnels, people speculated, ballistics, trace residue. If there was a pew-pew that was used, like, they didn't just destroy the evidence, guys. They erased the entire crime scene from the timeline, from ever being like double tracked and going to look back at it to see if they got shit right after new info came out. They skipped the entire standard public comment and appeals window, which would normally apply to any demolition of historical or criminally significant structures. They fast-tracked it because they're either hiding bad police work or they're burying something that would be nuclear to this case.
Now, let me solidify what you just said. Don't forget that $1 million funding for additional beefed up security for the campus. Campus has their own security. Little went to school there. That was his alma mater. He went to Moscow. Okay. He has a connection. I'm sure the president, allegedly, somebody in that community reached out to him and say, look, we've had this historical problem going on. And I'm thinking of a business person here. I'm thinking from a business aspect. We have this problem. We have this stigma attached to our name. And you know that the U of I is trying to be bought out by University of Phoenix, right? There is a pending sale for this college. But let me just back up a little bit. What do you do for social and mental wellness when a stigma like this affects your town? You freaking erase history. You take the building out. You scrub the internet. You delete videos. You cancel creators. You cancel people talking about it. You erase history.
And I'll even take that a step further, Phoenix, since we're kind of riffing off of each other here. You know when else you do that? You do that when you're covering up something bigger going on, like an operation that you don't want to be exposed. So again, that's where it's like we're going to look through two different lenses in this chat and on our lives here. But Phoenix, well said. And it's just Also, how about just the amount of like non-uniformed personnel and vehicles that were at the house during the crime scene?
Again, there was a parallel investigation. You have to understand what the feds go and investigate. Pull it up. Ask what the FBI investigates. Look at their 8 levels of criteria. Cross out the ones that don't make sense for what we know right now. And then look at the ones that are left. And then start throwing that into GPT with what we know of the Idaho 4. But also keep in mind, these operations are going on in many states right now and involving illegal immigrants in the trucking industry.
And what did SG say? I'll tee that one up for you.
National security.
Yep. And he said that they want to identify fingerprints. He specifically brought up truckers over on the border.
Yeah, they want to track every move from everybody, not just these college kids on apps. They want to track everybody, the real ID. They're pushing that, the immigration, the border, national security. Do you know that there was a group of people in that area that actually tried to plan a infiltration on a very important piece of, oh, how do I say this without getting banned? Very important piece of our nation's infrastructure in Idaho. If you don't know what facilities are out there, start Googling them. That would be a level of national security.
Can you give a little bit more context safely?
Supplies our electricity.
Okay. So that might be as well. Let's see if I can get a little bit bigger. All right. So these are the 8 things for the FBI's key criteria for involvement. Okay. Federal law violation. This says Idaho 4 match possibly because Koberger allegedly drove across multiple states. And if Ruggs, communications, or informants were involved, it does tick this box. That chuckle is just because it's like, okay, threat to national security, and it says 100% if any of the victims were tied to a federal rug op or knew about it. National security clause is invoked to bury this threat. I'm just laughing because it's like, guys, everything points to this. No wonder why they were on a freaking plane in 6 hours, Phoenix?
40 plus investigators were sent out there.
Okay, look at this. And then look at this.
And what did it say about the F word in there? Go up a little bit, that last line.
Federal? Which one?
Early rumors.
Early rumors tied frats to rug trafficking, if that's true, and it protected it. Yeah, because guys, I would argue too, if that is such a big hub, you would use like frat people. You would use people that are around a party scene. You'd use popular kids that maybe have low level rug charges, and you flip them, and you get them to cooperate, so that you tell them, you know, you have a clean record when you graduate and go get a job. And so this is interesting. Like, hold on, Phoenix. You want to know what I'm realizing? Every single one of SG's points justifies one of these 8. Have you noticed that? Every single thing that he brings up seems to check one of these boxes, because he talked about trucking and interstate activity and crossing the borders. He didn't say, why wouldn't he talk about Koberger crossing borders of states? No, he talked about truckers. Have you ever thought about that? Why did he not? Because Koberger crossed the border of states all the time. Why would he say truckers?
I'm 2 days ahead of you. Why do you think I told you to look into this?
Yeah, well, thank you. Yes, okay. I mean, it's mind-boggling. And I do like how it's like, I do appreciate like your Socratic method, Phoenix. It's helpful. Suspect's already a part of it. Or an analyst or an asset.
And what did he do? He studies what?
Predictive criminal behavior.
He was picked one of two of the top of his class by someone who studied the criminal minds of unalivings. How coincidental is that?
You know you know how I feel about coincidences and the definition of it being a mathematical term.
Absolutely. There is no coincidence.
There is none. I'm going to say it again. There's people that listen. They've heard me say it. I like to say this. And it's that the term coincidence is a mathematical term, which means coincide. And that means that two angles cannot fit together in any other way unless they are perfectly aligned. And the phrase of speech that we use it in really isn't accurate. So now, see, this is one too, where I'm like, okay, it's not applicable unless someone in the case was being silenced for speaking against protected targets. Well, could Kaylee check that box if she knew something and was telling people?
I told Adam everything.
Exactly. Exactly.
You're going to be in big trouble.
Yep. I mean, every box is checked so far. We have one more. Obviously, this one does. Major violent crime of national interest. Sorry. Got a text from Mrs. Birdie. And this is, here we go. Oops. Here we go.
Within hours.
This is I love how ChatGPT has like learned my style of typing and types it kind of back to me, which is, this is the do not F with us clause. And if the crime go ahead.
When you said someone was at your door, I was like, oh shit.
I mean, I went down there, my dog was going bananas, and I like looked out and there was like people walking away. So I was like, oh, someone was at my house, and I didn't know if they were knocking or something. So that would have been funny to get swatted. Not really.
I'm like, well, if we're that dangerous for talking about it, you might as well hire us.
Could you guys have imagined, like, if I didn't come back for like Phoenix, I need to like give you my number so you can like just check in on me outside of this if I didn't come back on.
Widow.
Yeah. So this is interesting. It says the Idaho 4, this is the smoking pew pew. Even if one of those victims was involved in a sting or a WITSEC program or blew the lid on a covert op. Which, okay, what if it really all comes down to Kaylee's comment? Who is Adam? As far as like type of like duty is? Like is he like a square?
Adam
is he a partier?
Adam, the bartender, lived with Jack, I believe.
So does that mean that like, did Kaylee find out something about somebody either at a frat or in the house was protected or an informant and told it, and they're like, she didn't think it was a big deal or something?
I don't know, but Adam left town the next day, and so did Jack.
Guys, the amount of stuff that we've like picked through in these lives, this is exactly why I like doing the live digs, is because it's so hard to put them into a video and flow and kind of see the working thought process. So pretty much if you check boxes, 2, 3, 5, 7, and 8, you're not in a crime scene. You're in a federal operation with a cleanup crew. And this says in the Idaho 4, they didn't just tick those boxes. They blew them wide open. How many? All right. Type number 1. Again, I love doing this because it's interesting. Type number 1, if you guys now, after hearing this, are open-minded to the possibility this might have been a federal operation. Different kind potentially, or type number 2 if you guys still think that this is BK and only BK and evidence doesn't matter. I think I saw only 2 2s in that. Cindy, unsure 3. That's funny.
Now I'm gonna throw one more in here, and then I'm gonna go. I promised my husband I'd spend some time with him tonight.
Yeah. Yep.
So let me throw one more at you. The app that we're on that has primarily dominated social media for the last few years since COVID is not owned by the government, our government. And therefore, I believe, as you all know, when I shared that video the other day, that I had this feeling for quite some time, for probably the last 3 years or so. If you cannot control the narrative, you hire people and pay them to control the narrative here.
Yes. And I'm going to, let me just look this up. Phoenix, if you have any like other closing thoughts outside of that, if you guys don't follow Phoenix Talks, you guys should. She puts out great videos and she's a regular on the live. So if you got anything, Phoenix, I'm going to look this up because I want to say one thing about the controlling the narrative.
I would only hope that if this is what we think it is, if what we've researched and see it, I would only hope that these kids are safe. If they're not, my heart goes out to these families. This is horrible. It's an awful situation to be in. I could not even imagine it. And I've got college kids. But I will say this, if it's for the protection of national security, I am down for that 100%. I want my freedoms to be protected, and that includes not being assumed guilty before a constitutional right is violated in a court of law.
Yes, well said. And I think everybody in here, I know with the live, you scroll through it or whatever, but I would like to think that the people in here, they understand it. And I think too, we've done a good job at hammering that point home. Obviously, we don't know what happened. Nobody really knows what happened, but we can look through different lenses and ask questions and talk about the bigger picture at a 40,000 foot view about the due process. And I wanted to, as you brought up that point, I know some people feel a certain way about Rogan. Some people don't. When he has guests on that can go as deep down rabbit holes and has lived it, it's episode. Oh, does it say what episode number it is? No, but it's this dude. This is his name. So if you search that in like Spotify, now he talked about sitting at a table and there was like government officials there that were just out loud saying they're developing infrastructure to let a small elite connect, like that were connected to intelligence agencies, tech companies, certain NGOs, completely control the information online. Like literally, we're going to take an open source thing with AI in this. And they said, oh, no. It's going to be like 1 or 2 companies and we're going to dictate what they can do. And that's like the Cliff Note version of it. Guys, the shit that he talks about, the examples that he talks about at this, it's exactly what Phoenix said about like this app's not owned by our country. Like, if anybody really thinks it's about anything other than controlling the flow of information, I would say, I don't know if anybody even does think. I think it's kind of obvious. Like this app, think about how much everybody has learned on this app in real time from each other. It's incredible. So incredible. So
I've learned so much. My sourdough business and my sourdough.
My wife does sourdough too. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So, I mean, DIYs, thought processes. I mean, we have become so evolved today with this app here. Now I understand why the government wants this app so bad. They don't want the algorithm. They want the control.
They do. They really do. And that was one of the things that I think really drove me to talk about this case. And again, I don't know if he's still in here, but that his username is Krabby Abby, and he puts out, he has all of his comments turned off, but he puts out some of the most like holy shit, this has been out in public and talked about for so long. Like, he was the video that I saw about how you were able to, with 423 profiles of DNA, you can make up any conceivable DNA profile without having the DNA from the person that you're going to make it of. That was in 2009. And they wrote about it in the New York Times.
Well, that was right after the study was totally complete of the genome code.
Yes.
That was a long study that I followed for years.
Yes.
And right after that, they had a complete profile enough. Even when 23andMe went into business in 2009, they wanted to capture more. Because, see, a lot of people don't understand, and I'll just be very specific about this. Pregnant women who have any risk of genetic anomalies, they are tested, and those tests were kept. Children were tested in hospital. They had a wide variety of a code to use to accomplish this task.
That's exactly right. And again, it's like, I've said this. The majority of people in this chat, I would say everybody in this chat, is a good person. And what ends up happening to people who are good people is you assume everybody else is good. And you assume that what they tell you that they're going to use this stuff for is only with good intent. For exactly what Phoenix said. Is there going to be a genetic disorder? Is there going to be something that doesn't link up and it's going to put the baby at risk? Or predictive for, like, you know, whatever down the road. But that same technology can also completely sabotage and fabricate investigations in a high profile level. And we don't assume that they're going to ever use it for the nefarious things that it could do. And there's so many examples of the technology that's released to the public that they push it in a good light. So, you know, that's one of those things. And like, shoot, I had another point on it doubling in size. He was the one that talked about it doubled in size, because in that study it talks about doubling it in size, and it talks about the methods that it uses. I remember what it was going to be, because I have my wife on every Wednesday for like a 30-minute thing where she comes on and kind of gives her hot takes on stuff that she's either seen us talk about as she's watching the lives or other stuff she's seen. And we started talking about, like, at what point is there a diminishing return to DNA in court with AI and this capability? And what if it links up to these giant genetic databases, knowing that they only need 426 people to create any conceivable profile? Do you upload a photo of yourself with your height and your weight and your blood type, and can it just put together a genome sequence and like 3D print it out into a little petri dish? Because if you guys don't think that's going to be possible, like, they can already change the color of your guys of a kid's eyes. I believe they can. I know they can. But at what point does that turn into, like, do you want him to be 6'8" and jump like LeBron? Like, when does performance enhancing start to come into that? Because I think it's gonna happen. I think that you're gonna be able to pick and choose DNA eventually and play God. And they've been cloning shit and sheep, thank you, Marianne, for a very long time. They're gonna be able to do it.
Yeah, through CRISPR technology, you can do almost anything. You're absolutely right. But the people who get their hands on this, it can be used for good or it can be used for nefarious reasons. And I think we're seeing that played out more and more, because in the old days, they didn't have this technology and people were innocently put in prison. And all of a sudden you start seeing, oh, well, through DNA and the advanced DNA and spinning and a PCR and doing all this stuff, now we found out that wasn't the perpetrator after all. Exactly.
Bloodshot Betty, nail on the head. If they can bring back an extinct version of a wolf, they can probably clone our DNA and make up the DNA. You know that in that study too, they sent it to the top 3 genetic testing labs that crimes use, or like that the courts would use in our country, in the United States. Not one of them noticed. And that was while the study was going on. So that's pre-09. And I don't want to get the chat. Nobody type this a bunch, please. I'm actually serious. Guess what country all this came out of? And that's not, it's just wild. And you look at like, these are places with giant intelligence operations in their government. And you look at these cases over time where like I would be like, I've always said the best thing in a court of law would be like and you can call it a lie detector test. I'm rambling, but it's like the lie detector test, I believe, was discredited by the same people that created the lie detector test so that high ranking officials can get off. And they say, well, you can use it, but you just can't use it as credible in the court of law so that those people can go on and be like, I don't recall, or that's an ongoing investigation and shit like that. But I'm telling you, if they could come up with something where it's like, no, we're going to literally have this thing. It's going to look into your pupils, or it's going to read your body temperature. It's going to do some sort of biometric hack that's going to tell us you need to answer the entirety of this question. We would save so much money in our system, in our court systems. Yes, it does, Blue. So with that being said, guys, I hope that everybody enjoyed this live. That was a great live. Phoenix, as always, you rock. Shout out to the mods. Tomorrow night, 7:30 Central. I kind of like, do you guys like the 7 p.m. start and then ending at 9:30? I like to go for about an hour and a half or 2 hours. So do you guys like the 7 p.m. Central time? Yes. Start a little bit earlier. Okay. I'll start doing 7. I'll set an alarm right now so that I'm reminded and I don't fall back on habit. Okay.
Good. And make sure next time that we go on, we study the history of Idaho's underground tunnels, especially in the university.
How weird is this?
The history is there.
I have it pulled up in a tab that I was going to talk about it tonight. And you and I, you guys, Phoenix and I, we don't ever talk prior to these. You guys are seeing live reactions, live discussion. That's crazy, Phoenix.
There's a historical since the early 1927. There are photographs all around. The infrastructure was built there in advance. In the hill behind the house, there was some rumors that there might have been tunnels. They weren't actually tunnels, in my humble opinion, and I'm no landscaping expert or tunnel expert or railroad expert or any of that, but my own logical sense would be it was either for irrigation or someone had carved tunnels in regards to a mean of transportation. But are there? I have no idea. It was just a thought that crossed my mind earlier today. And we all know that there's a big, huge debate on where else tunnels are across our country. Idaho has a specific, extensive network of underground steam tunnels.
Yes. And there are contractors that have worked on that house that have said it has an extremely odd crawl space and access to that crawl space from 2 of the rooms, I believe. And they named it specifically in a closet, and I forget where the other one was. So we will dive into that tomorrow.
Absolutely. Erasing history.
Yep. Well, I hope everybody has a great night. Thank you guys for everybody that joined. And I will see you guys tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central. Cheers, everybody.